Good morning. Act with Freedom, working on a monologue today. So, this month, March, Monologue Month, Monologue Challenge, picking a monologue in the public domain. I have chosen Madame De Rosamunde's monologue from Les Liaisons Dangereuses, Dangerous Liaisons. So, this is a translation that's in the public domain. And what's really important about that is there are a number of translations of this particular piece, Les Liaisons Dangereuses. The original work was written in the 18th century, so obviously that's public domain, but the translations aren't necessarily public domain. So you need to make sure that you've got a translation that was written before 1925, published before 1925. And so I have a translation that I got, just an EPUB translation, definitely within the public domain. And then it's in my books folder on my iPhone. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read through this for now, and then I'm going to be doing some edits. So let me just read through the portion that I'm working from, and then we'll talk a little bit about how I'm going to edit it. So I'm just going to go ahead and read it now. This is how it appears in the file, and they call it Dangerous Connections. This is what the translation of that title is. So let's go ahead. Madame de Rosamunde to the Président de Tourvel, if you've seen the film Madame de Tourvel. And if you're familiar with that film, Dangerous Liaisons, Glenn Close, John Malkovich, Michelle Pfeiffer, she's speaking. This is Valmont's aunt speaking to Michelle Pfeiffer's character, at least in that version of this story. So here we go. Madame de Rosamunde to the Président de Tourvel. Why, my lovely dear, will you no longer be my daughter? Why do you seem to announce that our correspondence is to cease? Is it to punish me for not guessing at what was improbable? Or do you suspect me of creating your affliction designedly? I know your heart too well to imagine you would entertain such an opinion of mine. The distress your letter plunges me in is much less on my own account than yours. Oh, my young friend, with grief I tell you, you are too worthy of being loved, ever to be happy in love. Where is there a truly delicate and sensible woman who has not met unhappiness where she expected bliss? Do men know how to rate the women they possess? Not but many of them are virtuous in their addresses and constant in their affections. But even among those, how few that know how to put themselves in unison with our hearts. I do not imagine, my dear child, their affection is like ours. They experience the same transport, often with more violence, but they are strangers to that easy officiousness, that delicate solicitude that produces in us those continual tender cares, whose sole aim is the beloved object. Man enjoys the happiness he feels, woman that she gives. The difference, so essential and so seldom observed, influences in a very sensible manner the totality of their respective conduct. The pleasure of one is to gratify desires, that of the other is to create them. To know to please is in man the means of success, and in woman it is success itself. So that's the way it appears exactly as translated. Now, one of the beauties of works in the public domain and translations in the public domain is that we can make the minor adjustments that we need to make in order to turn these pieces into monologues that we can use on camera, in public, or for auditions. This is a really wonderful piece. If you've seen the film is very moving, very passionate. Everyone giving amazing performances. And yet, even years ago when I first saw it, it was this speech, this scene with this older woman who's supposed to be probably in her late 70s, explaining to a younger woman this concept of it is probably not a wonderful idea to expect to find happiness from passionate love. Really a beautiful speech. So I'm going to make some minor adjustments to it. As you know, this is a letter. And so I'm going to adjust it so that it appears as if it's actually a speech. And I'm going to go ahead and place Madame de Tourvel in the room with me as I would at an audition or in a theatrical performance. So I'm going to go ahead and cut part of the beginning that I read before. And then I'm going to make some minor adjustments in order to create a little bit more clarity in terms of what she's saying, talking about the difference between men and women. The language is pretty good in this, but I think I can make some little adjustments to make it even more clear. And then, of course, if you know the other recommendations I've made for creating monologues and getting them ready to present, so I've done the read through, going to do some editing, and then I'm literally going to write it out completely by hand. And I'll probably type it out as well to help me make those mind, the visual, auditory connections, and also the graphic connections that will help me to get started on my memorization. All right, so those are our tips for today. Finding pieces in the public domain, making sure that if it's a translation, that the translation is also in the public domain, reading through it, going back, making edits, and then going to be writing it out by hand as we work on creating the ability to act with freedom. So, a couple of ideas behind freedom: the freedom to use the piece because it's in the public domain, and then the freedom to perform it because we have it memorized so well. All right, that's it for today. Go out there, find your monologue, and have fun. I'm done.